What's up, guys? We're back with another creepy video. Before we get into it, make sure you join the Mermaid Gang because it's our season. It's spooky season. So make sure you join the Mermaid Gang. And if you're interested in the law of attraction as well, I have incorporated that into my channel. So here we talk about paranormal, creepy, and how to create the life of your dreams. So what's better than that, honestly? Go ahead and join the Mermaid Gang where we suspend our disbelief, and let's jump into my first creepy video of the spooky season. Okay, so this story is from Reddit user MattDog5050. These are his true Ouija board experiences. We've already discussed on this channel why we don't with Ouija boards, but I'm gonna give you a few more reasons in this story. This one is really long, so this is the only one I'm reading. This is gonna be kind of long, but hopefully it'll be interesting to somebody. I hate how much paranormal stuff is often faked. It takes all credibility away from the actual study of it. There are real things that are unexplainable that I wish could be taken more seriously by science. Since I have first-hand accounts of something unexplainable, I feel that I should at least share what I've experienced. I guess I just think the more true information out there, the better. True. Some of this gets a little, I guess I would say, bigger than I ever expected. I'm agnostic and not super superstitious. I believe in ghosts, but I always question everything. Trust me, I don't blame anybody for not believing in this. So just a warning, some of this is going to sound extremely fake, but trust me, this is the only paranormal stuff that has ever happened to me. Nothing before and nothing since. Part 1, 2007. Okay, senior year of high school, my friend and I got a Ouija board from Toys R Us. It was almost Halloween and we wanted to do something kind of creepy. We used it a few times and it worked on and off. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. When it would work, it would answer questions like knowing our family members' names and other stuff like that. We thought it was cool, but I now realize that it could have very well just been our subconscious moving it. I don't fully trust any answer if a person on the board knows the answer as well. I've seen a study on it and there definitely is something to it. Little detour. Basically, a group of people in the study used a Ouija board. It was answering questions and working great. Then they blindfolded everyone and all the Ouija board spelled was absolute nonsense. While I do believe the board answers on its own, I think some answers can be filled in by someone's subconscious if there isn't a good enough connection with anything. Anyways, we thought it was cool and told our friends about it. One of our friends said he wanted to try it in the cemetery. We were down, so a few nights later, around 11 or midnight, the three of us went to a cemetery. As we used it, it seemed as though there were little noises, like rustling and little twigs snapping all around us. We'd take little breaks from using it, and all the noises would stop. Once we put our hands back on, the sounds would start up again. The sounds may have very well been coincidental, but we were creeped out. At one point, when I looked in the direction of one of the noises, I thought I saw a dark figure that was about 4 feet tall, dark behind a tombstone in the distance. It was dark, so I really don't know. It was just a split second and it was gone. I was creeped out, but I knew my eyes may have been just playing tricks on me. We left the cemetery and drove to a park that was next to an orchard. We began using the board again and started hearing the same kind of noises we heard earlier. This was a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure there was the sound of something running towards us from the orchard. I kind of remember that happening, but my friend remembers it very well. We kept talking to the board and all of a sudden it started answering every question with fire. No matter what we would ask, fire. We started asking, are you talking about hell? Did you die in a fire? Am I gonna die in a fire? But still all it would say is fire. I think it just kind of stopped working after that. It started spelling nonsense and moving really slow. We then packed it up and headed home. We got in my car and started driving them to their houses. I dropped my friend, who I bought the board with, off at his house. He took the board with him. I was almost to my other friend's house when we started seeing something. This is gonna sound unbelievable, I know. In the distance, way down the road, we saw a light. We didn't know what it was. As I drive closer, we realized it was a car on fire, parked on the side of the road. We couldn't believe it. It was just sitting there in flames. I still ask him to this day, that really happened, right? It was in the local newspaper the next week. It said there was no signs of theft and that it was probably vandalism. I'm not gonna say that the Ouija board definitely is responsible. It might have been just telling us that the car was burning. I don't know. So anyways, we were in shock and I decided to hang with him a bit when we got to his house. We went upstairs to his room and talked about it. He went to the bathroom and when he came back, he closed his bedroom door. As he took one step away, there was a single bang on the door. He opened the door and nothing was there. We talked for a minute and then started hearing heavy footsteps clearly, walking up and down the hall right outside his room. We listened for a bit and then he opened the door. As he looked out, his mom was looking out her bedroom as well. She said she had heard the same thing. I stayed for a while longer and then headed home. I got home and maybe 20 minutes later my friend calls in panic when he said he felt a breath on the back of his neck. I wasn't there so I don't know, but he seemed legit terrified. I basically stayed on the phone with him till sunlight. Part 2, 2007 and 2008. Just letting everybody know because I'm getting some questions about it, I feel I should mention we never said goodbye to the board any time that we used it. We were young and stupid and didn't take it as seriously as we should have. We didn't look into any of the rules, we just dove in. I'm not sure how much later this happened, it was a month or maybe more. Another one of our friends really wanted to try it. He couldn't believe everything we were saying, so we went out with him one night and took him to the same park but a different area. It was a picnic table up on a hill. It was next to a waist-high fence that ran along a 30-foot drop down to the orchard below. The board immediately started working as soon as we touched it. We talked to it for a while. I don't really remember exactly what it was saying. Our friend was pretty intrigued, but still not convinced. He then asked it to make a noise. I hate how cliche this is gonna sound, but probably about 10 seconds after he asked, there was a sound of a little girl giggling in the orchard. It was a high-pitched little giggle that went on for maybe 2 seconds. We heard it clear as day. None of us could believe it. Our friend kept saying, "There's no way, there is no way." It was really creepy, but we were almost busting up laughing at the same time. It just made such little sense. I mean, my friend and I knew the Ouija board was real, but even we didn't expect that. It was ridiculous, and to have this happen in front of our friend who didn't believe us was very satisfying. We started talking to it again, and he asked it to make another noise. Pretty soon after, a slow cracking started coming from the orchard. It was basically the sound of a large branch slowly cracking and falling off of a tree. We could hear all of the other tiny branches and leaves rustling around as it fell. I don't quite remember if we heard the thud of it landing, but it was all very clear. We were all in shock. It was literally unbelievable. We talked about what happened for a bit, and then our friend asked it to make another noise. This time there was a single high-pitched little beep on the other side of us. It was only half a second long. It wasn't super loud, but we all heard it. I think the board just stopped working after a while, so we packed it up and left. This part pisses me off. I haven't talked to our friend who was with us in years, but somebody I know said that they had recently talked to him about it. He remembers all of it, but he won't even consider the chance of it possibly being paranormal or unexplainable. He thinks it was all a coincidence. Anyways, another one of our friends still wasn't believing us. We used it one time in the park with him and someone else, but it wasn't that great. It wasn't very responsive. We asked it to make a noise and nothing happened. It just wasn't working. Then maybe a few weeks later, we went to one of our friends' cabin to get drunk. A few friends had supposedly seen a shadow figure there, so we thought, hey, let's bring the Ouija board. We ended up getting super drunk and then we pulled out the Ouija board. One of our friends who didn't believe us got on. He started asking it some questions about family names and stuff like that. It answered some correctly, others were just nonsense. He was completely wasted at this point and started calling it every bad word that he could possibly think of. He was just being an idiot and trying to be funny. He continues to cuss at it and put it down repeatedly, yelling, "Prove you're real, do something." He kept going at it for a while and then we just packed it up and went back to getting drunk and smoking. Nothing happened for the rest of the time at the cabin. We might have used it in the morning, I don't really remember. Anyway, we drove back home the next day. When I got to my house, I went to my room and turned on my computer. I immediately went to MySpace and logged into my account. My friend who was yelling at the Ouija board shared a little band page with me. I clicked on our page and was shocked to see that somehow our profile views had changed to 666. For anybody who didn't have MySpace, MySpace would keep track of profile views and put a little counter on your public profile and your homepage so you could see how many you had. I logged into the band account and on the homepage there was still 800 something views like normal. I looked at the profile again and there were still 666. No matter how many times me or anybody else clicked on the page, it would stay at 666 views. It stayed like this for 2 weeks. Then all of a sudden, one day it went back to normal. There are still comments on the profile where people were talking about it. Everybody was creeped out. After that, we didn't use the board for a few years. We let somebody borrow it and then we stopped hanging out with them, so we never got it back. We didn't really care though. We didn't feel like using it anymore. Part 3, 2010-2011. A few years later, me and my friend that I had bought the Ouija board with were sharing a house in the country. It was almost Halloween and we had some friends over. We were all drunk and talking about our Ouija board experiences. We were annoyed with ourselves for never having gotten the board back. I told them how my mom used to make her own when she was a kid and that you can make them out of literally anything. Okay, a little detour. My mom always told me never to use the Ouija board. She had some bad experiences when she was a kid and knew it was very real and very dangerous. Honestly, these stories and warnings only made me want to use it more. Can't relate. So, quick story about her that's pretty crazy. She and her sister were using a homemade Ouija board at her aunt and uncle's house. There was a phone call, so her aunt left the room to go answer it. My mom asked the board, "Who's on the phone?" It started moving to a bunch of different numbers. Her aunt hangs up and comes back into the room. Her uncle said, "Who was on the phone?" I don't remember exactly who it was, but basically there was a mix-up with someone's flight or something. She maybe said something about the flight number and some other numbers. Long story short, all the numbers matched up with what the board said. Her uncle, who was very religious, did not like that. Up until then, he had only thought it was just a little trick or a game. He began asking it questions and mentioning God. The board started saying vulgar things to them. He grabbed a Bible and started reading scripture to it. I don't know how long this went on, but the board ended up telling him that it was going to kill him. They asked how, and it responded, "Car." I think it was 2 weeks later, he was driving somewhere and got into a really bad car accident that left him in critical condition. My mom said at some point when she was younger, an older woman in her family, like her grandma or great aunt or something, told her that she sensed something with her. She said that she was like her and had a gift. My mom has said that she sometimes gets weird feelings like someone's there, but nothing crazy. I think it's very rare that she feels anything, even if she does. She never talks about it. It's very possible that it might just be in her head because she was told that she had a gift. I don't know. I feel my mom kind of plays into things a bit sometimes. She only says that she has it whenever this story randomly gets brought up. Otherwise, I never hear anything about these feelings. Maybe she just doesn't talk about it or think about it that much. Let's just say, if somehow this is real, maybe this could possibly be why my Ouija board experiences were as crazy as they were. Again, I don't know. I definitely know that I'm not psychic. I have never felt anything like that. All I'm saying is, if this were somehow true, maybe I just inherited enough of whatever it is to make the Ouija board go crazy. I don't know. Maybe none of that is real. It's just something that I was told. I have no idea. It sounds crazy to me. I feel so embarrassed saying it, even anonymously. Me and my friends were all drunk at our house. I made a Ouija board out of a 30-pack box and a shot glass. My two friends started using the board, but it was hardly working. I then sat down to give it a try. As soon as we asked it a question, it worked. It started moving at a decent speed. I used it for a bit, and then my friend swapped in. The board was still working for them. It told them its name was Agatha. It kept working for the next half hour or so, and then we stopped. We used it one more night after that with someone else. It worked again, but I don't think anything interesting happened. Some time passes, maybe days, maybe weeks, I don't know, it was a long time ago. My roommate and I were sitting on the couch watching TV. All of a sudden, we start hearing heavy footsteps from upstairs. We just sat there terrified and frozen as we listened. They were walking up and down the hall. We stopped hearing them after a little while, so we went upstairs and looked. Obviously, nothing was there. One evening, we were sitting on the back deck. There was a door to our right, about 20 feet away, that led to this little side room. We were talking about something when we were interrupted by several quick knocks on the door. I don't remember if it only knocked a few times or if it continued on and off for a minute or so. Like with the footsteps, we just froze and stared in shock. It was late one night and we had a few people over. We were all drinking down in the basement. There was a flimsy metal door at the top of some stairs that led outside. It's the kind of door that you lift up from the ground to go down into the basement. We were drinking and listening to music when all of a sudden something started banging very loudly on the metal door. It probably banged 4 or 5 quick times. We all froze and looked at each other. We turned off the music. I walked upstairs and pushed open the metal door. Nobody was there. We looked around and there was nothing. We lived way out in the country, so we kind of already knew what it was right when it happened. A few weeks later, I was sitting in my room. There was an empty cereal bowl sitting in front of me on my desk. I was looking at my laptop, and in the corner of my eye, I saw the handle of the spoon lift up about 1 centimeter and then flick 2 inches along the side of the bowl. It was a ceramic bowl, so it made a little clink sound. One night, a little while later, I was at my parents' house. My roommate and I were in a band, and a lot of my recording stuff, like my computer, was still there. I was working on something, and all of a sudden, I heard a cat start yowling. It sounded exactly like one of our old cats. It was very low and drawn out. It sounded like it was coming from our attic. I walked into my closet where I had a little opening in the ceiling to get up into the attic. I would blow smoke up there when smoking weed in my room, so it was already pushed open. The yowling didn't stop. I stared up at the hole. It sounded like the cat was right there. I called the cat's name a few times, and it continued. I was getting very annoyed because I did not want to have to deal with getting the cat out of the attic in the middle of the night. Then all of a sudden, the yowl started to change. It slowly started morphing into a voice of an old ethnic woman. With each yowl, it started sounding more and more like a very slow, "Help me, help me." It was at the same exact pace of the yowls, same pitch and everything. It just took on a human voice. It's weird. It's much scarier retelling it than it was actually living it. I just kind of stared up at the noise. I was definitely freaked out, but I almost didn't believe it at the same time. The sound stopped and I just walked away and closed the closet door. I sat down at my desk and basically just tried to pretend it didn't happen. I was scared, but I didn't want to show it. My friend and I continued to hear footsteps and other forms of movement on and off throughout our time living at the house. It was very rare though, maybe once every 2 weeks. The only time I ever definitely saw something was at that house. I was the only one home and I was recording something on the piano. I was sitting staring forward, listening to the playback through my headphones. Suddenly, a shadow darted across the wall right in front of me. At that time, I just thought it was my roommate's shadow. The way it moved and where it was on the wall looked exactly like how it would have looked if he were to have rushed by and went up to his bedroom. I knew it was around the time he'd be getting home from work, so I thought nothing of it. I took off my headphones and walked into the living room. I didn't hear my roommate moving around upstairs. I looked out the window and his car wasn't there. It creeped me out, but I also thought it was kind of cool. Then probably just about 2 minutes later, my roommate pulled up. A few weeks later, I used my Tascam 24 Neo. It's a music recorder. I was at my parents' house and I hooked it up to my computer to transfer some songs. I had just recorded some new stuff and we were going to put it online. We hadn't released anything in quite a while. We were really proud of these songs and we worked extremely hard on them. We were very excited to show people. In the middle of exporting some of the songs to my computer, my recorder froze. I couldn't get it to do anything. It was just stuck on one screen. I had to shut it off after a while, and when I turned it back on, it was the exact same thing. I don't remember what the screen was, but I think it was maybe just some technical stuff I didn't understand. I remember looking it up online. It was a known error screen that many other people had experienced. So I was in a horrible mood and had to go to work. I didn't say anything about it to anybody. My other coworkers left and it was just me and another girl working the evening shift. The girl started saying that she was hearing little noises around the store every once in a while. I started paying closer attention and began hearing a few as well. We were standing in the back of the kitchen. It was an extreme pita. Talking about it, all of a sudden the handle of the back door started jiggling, like a light jiggle, kind of like something was trying to open it, but it was locked. She got pretty freaked out. I opened the door and the screen door on the outside was locked. That means nobody could have even touched the door handle. I just told her I didn't know what was going on. I didn't feel like saying anything about the Ouija board. We then heard the door to the bathroom in the dining room lightly close. I went and looked, but nobody else was in the store. Everything died down and I headed home after we closed. I was driving down our long driveway when in my headlights I saw my roommate's car parked on the side of the driveway, maybe 200 feet from the house. I drove closer and realized that he was also sitting in the car. We looked at each other. We might have talked a bit and I continued past the house. He turned his car around and followed me back. He told me that just about 5 minutes earlier, all of the electrical in the house had started freaking out. The lights were flashing and devices were beeping. I walked into the house and it was pretty normal. Some lights would still flicker every once in a while, but it had pretty much calmed down. Nothing crazy happened for a while after that. I sent my broken recorder into Tascam, the manufacturer, to get it fixed. They kept it for probably 2 months, possibly more. After a few weeks, I started calling every once in a while. They kept repeating that they could not figure out what was wrong with it. They tried test after test and nothing would work. They said they had never seen anything like it before. Ends up, the only way to fix it couldn't save everything I had stored on the machine. I had 2 years worth of song ideas and recordings on that thing, and it was all gone and nobody knew how. It sucked. After that, I looked up some way to get rid of a Ouija board curse. It very well may have had nothing to do with my recorder, but I didn't want to take any chances. I don't remember what the ritual was exactly, but we cut it into a certain amount of pieces and buried it. I'm not sure if that was the right thing to do or not, but I haven't had anything paranormal happen to me since. My parents also gave me my grandma's blessed rosary to take home. I didn't know how much of an impact that had. To take whatever you want from it, I'm just saying we brought it in, but between that and the ritual, something made it stop. I told you guys, do not mess with those things. Don't mess with them. They're not a joke. You don't know what you're contacting. It's not a good spirit, whatever it is. It is always an entity or something evil. Don't mess with it. People tend to like Ouija board stories for some reason. I mean, they're interesting to me too, but every story that I read about Ouija boards is another example of why you should not mess with them. Buy one, make your own, and none of it. I don't care about the rules. If you follow the rules, I don't care. You still are trying to contact something and you should not. So I hope that you guys are excited for the whole month of October. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing, and we out.